All right, in this video, we're going to be talking about section 12.3, which is the measures of central tendency. So, as mentioned earlier in this section, there's 4 measures of central tendencies, or you might just call them averages. I know normally when you thought about an average, you probably thought when I said average or grade, you would take, if you have 4 tests, you would add up the 4 tests and divide by 4. And that's a common average. It does seem to be the one most used and most common, especially in grading. We think of averaging in that way. But there's actually 4 averages. They're all considered an average. And what you're thinking about when you just add 4 items and divide by 4, for example, that's called the mean. Find the mean type of average. So it's a specific type. But again, there's 4 actual averages. All right, we're going to be going over those. And that's all that's in this section is just these 4 types of averages and how to compute them. All right, so each is calculated differently and may yield different results for the same set of data. So each result will result in a number near the center of the data. They should be representative of the data. That's the central tendency of the data. We talked about in the earlier section how that in the paper they may say the average this or the average that. And we said like a union could say their average salary was $45,000, and then the company says the average is $50,000, like for the salary, for example, to try to persuade people to come to their company. And they could both be right. They could both be citing real data since there's different types of averages. So to really understand it, you would need to go a little deeper and say which type of average do you mean. All right, so here they are. The first one, like I said, probably the one you think of the most is the mean. The mean means to add all the values, so sum all the values, and then divide by the number of pieces of data. The way that looks as a formula would be X bar means the mean, right? That's our symbol for the mean. And I don't know that we've mentioned this together yet, but the summation symbol is like a large E or epsilon in the Greek alphabet. That is our summation symbol. So that's a quicker way, instead of writing out, add up everything, to say we're going to sum all the pieces of data, all the numbers, and then we're going to divide by how many numbers were present. So that's a fancier way or more official way of saying how you find the mean. So again, to kind of get used to this notation in this chapter, again, the large E means a summation. X, when we use regular X's, like if I wrote out the numbers 6, 7, 8, and 9, for example, each one of these would be an X. So you're summing all the pieces of data, all the X representing each piece of data, and then dividing by N. N stands for the number of pieces of data. How many pieces were there? So N will stand for the number of pieces of data. But again, that's just kind of for like extra there. You can just remember to find the mean, and again, the symbol is X bar. You'll add everything together and divide by how many numbers are present. Just like you would think if you were averaging test scores. Say you made a 65 on a test, a 75, a 100, and then let's say an 82. And you wanted to know, what's my average? What would be my grade in this class? Now, not that this is exactly how we do this, because in our class we have homework assignments, we have quizzes, we have some tests, and so we have lots of things going on, so it's not quite this simple. But in some classes you just have 4 tests, that's it and that's all, and that would be your grade. So if you were trying to find your average of 4 tests, you would just add those 4 tests together. I better get my calculator to make it easier. So I'd add those 4 numbers. 65 plus 75 plus 100 plus 82. So we'd sum the data, or the X's, and that comes to 320. And then we would divide by N, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of data, and that would come out to be an 80. You would have a B, right? So you'd have an average, and you can kind of see that does seem to represent that data pretty well, right? So an average of 80, a B. So that's what a mean is. All right, the second example, the second type, I should say, of average is the median. Median is another way of saying middle. You want the one in the middle. Now, the thing is that takes some time on this is if it's a lot of numbers, you're going to have to rearrange it in order. It has to be ranked data in smallest to largest or vice versa. But you got to rank your data. You got to get that data in order. So, oh, what did I have? I should have used those same numbers. Let me make up some more numbers. 62, 75, 51, 150, and 32. If I wanted the middle of that, before I could find the middle, I can't use it in that form. I would have to rearrange it and I would have to put them in order. Smallest to largest or vice versa, that doesn't matter. And this can be harder than it looks because you have to pay attention and sometimes I miss one, especially if there's a lot of numbers. But it has to be in order. Ranked data and then pick out the middle. In this case, I had 5 numbers. So there was a true middle. 62 would be our median in this example. If I would have had an even amount of numbers, you find the median by averaging, or I should say by taking the mean of the 2 in the middle. You'd add the 2 in the middle and half it. So halfway between the middle. All right, so median means middle. Next, mode occurs most often, or the most common number, so the mode occurs the most. Sometimes there's not any numbers that are duplicated, so there could be just no mode, and that's a possible answer. Or it could be bimodal. Maybe there was 2 answers that had a tie or so on and so forth. But mode, if there's a clear winner especially, there would be a mode, one clear mode, if one occurs the most. Mid-range, you add the extremes, so the largest and the smallest, add the 2 extremes values, add those and divide in half. So you add the extremes. So for example, I have some numbers, 18, 27, 34, 48, and 48. And I used those, I should say, for all of these in your note packets. You can see I calculated the mean by adding these all together and dividing by, there's 5 numbers, right? Dividing by 5. So the mean came out to be 35 for that. The middle, which would be the middle number, this is already ranked data, so that's nice. I won't have to rearrange it. So the number in the middle was 34. The mode is the number that occurs the most. So the most common number in that list, 48's there twice, nothing else is repeated. So 48 would be the mode. And then our last average is the mid-range. Mid-range is where we take the 2 extreme values, the largest and the smallest, and we add those and divide by half. Find the mean of the extremes, right? So 18 plus 48 divided by 2, 33. So you can see from this example, all 4 of these, the same data, the same 5 digits, have 4 different answers, right? And none of those came out to be the same, but they're all considered averages that represent the central tendency of your numbers, of your data. All right, so pause the video. You've got 3 examples to do below, so take some time. Try to practice those before you come back in and see the answers. But I'm going to keep rolling, and the question is find the 4 averages of these examples. The first one, we have a list of numbers. I needed to rewrite it in order so I'll be able to do my median. So let me go ahead and write these as they are in order. Again, this is tedious. You need to be careful as you do this, kind of look back, and I'm really bad for the details, so I have to watch myself close. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Make sure you got all your numbers. There was 10 numbers. This is the cholesterol levels of some patients of a Dr. Lewis. Some data, and we're asked to find the 4 averages. So the first one is the mean. For the mean, we'll add all of that together, do a big addition problem. And that came out to be, oh, I didn't write that number down, but you could do that. But you add all that together, and I got whatever it was, and then divided by 10, and the mean should be 198.7. That's the mean of the data. The second average is the median. The median would be the number in the middle now that I've got it ranked. So the number in the middle, there's no true middle because there's 10 numbers, so I take the 2 of the middle, digit 5 and 6, and then I find the mean of those. So 195 plus 200, or what's in the middle of the 2 in the middle, in other words. So 195 plus 200, and divide that in half. That would be 197.5. So that's your median answer. For the mode, there was no mode. I should have made a better example, right? So nothing was repeated. So we would say for the third average, there is no mode. And then lastly, for the mid-range. The mid-range is the mean of the extremes. So we take the 2, the largest and the smallest, the extreme values. Add those and half it. So find the mean of the extremes. And that I get as, what did I get? 208.5. That is your mid-range. Now be careful with this. Mid-range is a specific calculation that we do for averages. But in the next video, the next section, we're going to find something just called the regular range. So if it doesn't have the word mid in front of it, it's just range, that's a totally different calculation. So there's a mid-range we're doing here, and then the next section we'll see something called a range, which is different. All right, so that's number 1. The answers to number 1. Number 2, we have some salaries of a small company, and those are listed. I think there were 12 answers there. Again, number 2. 28,000, 29,000, 29,500, 30,000, 30,000 again, so I'd have a mode this time. 31,000, 32,000, 33,000, 68,000, big jump, and 85,000. I think I got it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There was 10 on this as well. All right, I thought there was 12, but there was 10. And also, I write sideways, you know. All right, so the mean, I need to add all those together. And I didn't write that down for you, sorry. You add all that together, and then you divide by 10. And that final calculation for the mean should be, what did I say? 39,500. So that's your mean. And then number 2, to find the median, that's the number in the middle. Thus, I wrote them in order here. So the middle, again, there's 10 numbers, so there's no true middle. So we have to average the 2 in the middle, or find the middle of the middle. So between 30,000 and 31,000, you could add those and half it. Or you might just kind of know what's between 30,000 and 31,000 is 30,500. So that's your median. Your mode is the one that occurs the most. This one does have a mode, not by much. It's there's 2 30,000s though, so that would be our most common number. So the mode is 30,000, and then the mid-range, the last one, last average is add the extremes, so 28,000 and 85,000, and divide by 2. So find the mean of the extremes, and that answer should be 56,500. So the extreme value, the 85,000 and 68, aren't really representative of the sample here. You see, the extremes caused our median to look, or our mid-range to look especially large. And so you might say, you know, kind of thinking about this, this doesn't seem very representative of our sample. Oh, sorry, you probably can't see that, can you? It doesn't seem very representative of our sample. So there's 4 different types of averages, and you might use the one that makes your story the best. But if you were trying to sell your company as paying well, you'd use the mid-range, right? If you were trying to really find the true representative number, maybe the mode, the most common, something in the 30s seems more reasonable to what's really going on there. What would you say? Representative. And then we're going to run out of time on the video, so I'm just going to write down your answers. You should have to number 3, the scores on the exam. So the mean is 72.6 for that. The median is 79. And the mode is 79. And the mid-range is 65. So check your work on those. As always, let me know if you have questions.